The bride did not come. 300 of the most powerful people in Seoul sat in that church and waited, and at 40 minutes past the hour, everybody in the room understood that she was not going to, and nobody left. That is the part you need to hold on to. 300 people in a building with the doors wide open, and not one of them stood up. They stayed in their seats. They crossed their legs. They got comfortable. Because they had not come to watch Kang Woo-jin get married. They had come to watch what he would do when he was humiliated in front of every family that mattered. He is the most feared man in this city. He runs 6 districts, and he has never once been made to look small. And he was standing at that altar, alone, in a black suit, in front of everybody who had ever been afraid of him. Somewhere near the back, someone laughed. Nobody in that room moved to help him. Not his men. Not his uncle, who was smiling. Not one of 300 people, except a girl pouring wine at the back wall. She was 28 years old. She was catering staff, and in 11 years of working every important party in Seoul, not one person in that church had ever looked at her. She put down the tray. There are 2 kinds of invisible in this world. The kind that keeps you safe, and the kind that is simply loneliness organized. She had lived in the second kind for a very long time. So what makes a woman with nothing walk up an aisle in a catering uniform in front of 300 people who could destroy her? And what did she see 8 months earlier in a kitchen at 2 in the morning that made her unable to sit still and watch this man be left alone twice? Stay with me. Because when she said the words, Kang Woo-jin turned around and looked at her, and he did not recognize her at all. The wedding was called for 11. At 11:15, people began to look at their phones. At 11:30, the priest went into the back and came out again with nothing on his face. At 11:40, Kang Woo-jin's phone rang. He took it out of his jacket. He looked at the screen. 300 people watched him look at the screen. He answered it. Yes. Whatever was said took about 9 seconds. I see, said Kang Woo-jin. He hung up. He put the phone back in his jacket. He straightened his cuff and he stood there. He did not sit down. He did not walk out. He did not say a word to anybody. He simply stood at the front of that church in his black wedding suit, in front of every powerful family in Seoul, and he did not move. The silence went on for a very long time, and Dalia Adesanya, standing at the back wall with a bottle of white wine in her hand, watched 300 people slowly, comfortably, settle in to enjoy it. They're not going, Ji-won whispered. No. Dalia, it's been 40 minutes. Why is nobody going? Dalia did not answer, because the answer was ugly and Ji-won was 25, and had not worked enough of these rooms to know it yet. She had worked 11 years of them. She knew exactly what was happening. Every single person in that church had been afraid of Kang Woo-jin for a decade. Some of them had lost money to him. Some of them had lost more, and here he was in a suit, in front of them, being left. Nobody was leaving because leaving would mean missing it. Somebody should do something, Ji-won said. Like what? I don't know. Somebody should say something. Dalia looked at the room. His men were standing along the side aisle. 10 of them, hard men in black, and every one of them was looking at the floor, because there was nothing a soldier could do about this, and they knew it. Nobody's going to, she said, and then Kang Sung-ho stood up. He was 58, silver hair, an expensive suit. He had the warmest smile in that church, and he wore it now as he walked up the aisle with his hands out. Nephew. The room went quiet in a new way, a hungrier way. Woo-jin, look at me. He put a hand on his nephew's shoulder, and Woo-jin did not shrug it off, and something in the way he did not shrug it off made Dalia's stomach turn. It's all right. Nobody thinks less of you. Uncle, we'll find someone else. In time. Sung-ho's voice carried. It carried beautifully. It reached the back wall without effort, because it had been built to. It's only difficult because of the timing. The 6 families are all here. They came a long way. He patted his nephew's shoulder twice. That's the only that stings, he said kindly, that they all had to see it. And Dahlia Adesanya, who had spent 11 years standing against back walls in rooms full of powerful men, understood in one clean second exactly what she had just watched. That was not comfort. That was a knife, wrapped in velvet, pushed in slowly, in public. Somebody laughed. It was small. It came from 3 rows back, on the left, and it was not even cruel. It was just a laugh, the kind a man makes when a thing has gone on long enough to be funny. It carried in that room the way a dropped glass carries. Kang Woo-jin did not turn around. That was the thing Dahlia would think about for a long time afterwards. He did not turn around. He did not look for who had done it. He did not clench his jaw or close his eyes or give them one single thing to enjoy. He simply stood there, at the front of a church, in a black suit, and let 300 people look at him. And Dahlia felt something in her chest that she had not felt in 11 years of being furniture. She looked down at the bottle in her hand. "Dahlia," Ji-won said. She put the bottle on the tray. She put the tray on the table. Dahlia, 8 months earlier, she had worked a funeral. Kang Woo-jin's mother. Half the city came. There were flowers on flowers. There were 6 families and 40 photographers, and a queue of powerful men, waiting to shake the hand of a son in mourning. By midnight, they had all gone home. Dahlia was clearing the kitchen at 2 in the morning. It was the last job. It was always the last job, and it was always hers, because she was the one who did not complain about staying. She pushed open the door with her hip, carrying a crate of glasses. And there was a man sitting on a plastic crate in the corner of the kitchen, with his tie undone, and his elbows on his knees, and his face in his hands. She stopped. Kang Woo-jin looked up. He had been crying. He was not crying anymore, but he had been, and there was nowhere in that kitchen for either of them to pretend otherwise. He did not say anything. Neither did she. She could have backed out. She thought about it. Instead, she put the crate down. She went to the counter. She filled the kettle, and she boiled it, and she made 2 cups of tea in the ugly staff mugs. Because that was all the kitchen had. She put one down on the floor beside his foot. Then she sat down on an upturned crate 3 meters away, and she drank her own tea, and she did not say a single word. He did not say anything either. They sat like that for 40 minutes. At some point, she heard him pick up the mug. At some point, she heard him put it down, empty. The city had come to that funeral. All 6 families. Every man who owed him, and every man he owned. They had shaken his hand and eaten his food and gone home to their wives. And at 2 in the morning, the most powerful man in Seoul was sitting alone on a crate in his own kitchen, and Dahlia Adesanya was the only person in the entire world who had stayed. She left before he did. She washed both mugs first. He never asked her name. She had not expected him to. Nobody ever did. Back in the church, the laugh had died away. The priest was looking at his shoes. Kang Sung-ho had returned to his seat, and he had crossed his legs, and he was watching his nephew with an expression of the deepest, warmest concern. Nobody was going to do anything. 300 people. His own men. His own family. And Dahlia Adesanya, 28 years old, catering staff with a name tag nobody in that room had ever read, stepped away from the back wall and began to walk up the aisle. Dahlia. Ji-won's whisper was a hiss. Dahlia, come back. You'll lose your job. She kept walking. Somebody in the 3rd row saw her and did not understand, and turned to look at whatever she was walking towards, and found nothing. Then somebody else turned. Then a whole pew. It went through that church, like water going through cloth, and by the time Dalia Adesanya was 2/3 of the way up the aisle in a black and white catering uniform, 300 of the most powerful people in Seoul had turned around in their seats to look at her. She did not stop. She reached the front. The priest stared at her. One of Woo-jin's men took half a step forward and then stopped because he had absolutely no idea what the correct response to this was. Kang Woo-jin was still facing the altar. He had not turned around. Dalia stood at the bottom of the steps in her uniform, with her hands at her sides, and she looked at the back of the most dangerous man in Seoul, and she said it loudly enough for the whole room to hear. "I'll marry him." The church made a sound, not a word, a sound, 300 people inhaling at the same time. The priest said, "I beg your pardon?" "I said I'll marry him." Her voice did not shake, and she never afterwards understood why. "You've all been sitting here for an hour. Not one of you moved." She looked around that room, slowly, and she found she was not afraid of a single face in it. He needed someone to stand next to him today. Somebody said, "Is she Staff?" "Yes," said Dalia. "I'm Staff." And Kang Woo-jin turned around. Dalia had spent 8 months not thinking about the kitchen. She had told herself it was nothing. A cup of tea, 40 minutes. It had meant nothing to anybody, least of all to a man like that. But she had thought, standing at the bottom of those steps, with 300 people staring at her back, that when he turned around he would know her. She had not admitted to herself that she thought it. She thought it anyway. He turned around. He looked at her, and there was nothing. He looked at a catering uniform, and a name tag, and a woman he had never in his life laid eyes on, and there was not one flicker of recognition anywhere on his face. Dalia felt something go quietly out in her chest. "Who are you?" said Kang Woo-jin. He took her into the room behind the altar and shut the door. It was small, and it smelled of dust and candle wax. There was a mirror. There was a rail of the priest's robes. Outside, 300 people were making a noise like a beehive. "Do you know what you just did?" "Yes, you do not." He was not shouting. He had never once in his life shouted. "In that room there are 6 families, 4 prosecutors, 2 men who want me dead, and 1 woman from a newspaper who is going to have your face on a phone screen by 2 o'clock this afternoon. I know, you are catering staff. Yes, so why?" Dalia looked at him. "Because nobody else was going to," she said. Kang Woo-jin stared at her, and for one long second, he had absolutely nothing to say. "What do you want?" "Nothing. Everybody wants something. Then you have been meeting the wrong people," Dalia said. He came a step closer. She did not move. "Money," he said. "Say a number. I will pay it, and you will walk out of that door, and in a week nobody will remember your face." "No." "A job. A better one. I own restaurants." "No." "A visa. Papers. A flat." His voice was flat and fast, and he was going down a list because he had gone down this list 1,000 times with 1,000 people, and it had never once failed him. "A relative in trouble. A debt. Somebody threatening you." "No." "Then what?" "You keep asking me what I want," Dalia said. "It hasn't once occurred to you that I might not have been thinking about me at all." The bee noise came through the wall. "Everybody is thinking about themselves," said Kang Woo-jin. "I know," she said. "That's the saddest thing anyone has ever said to me." He did not marry her that day. He was not a fool. He sent her home in a car, and he put 4 men on her, and he had her turned inside out. It took 3 days. "Nothing," said his lieutenant on the 3rd evening. "Nothing. Dalia Adesanya, 28. 11 years with the same catering company. She was orphaned at 19. No debts, no gambling, no relatives in this country." He turned a page. "She sends money home to a cousin's daughter's school fees. That is the only irregular payment on her account, and it is 40,000 won a month. Who does she talk to? Her shift partner, her landlady. That's it. Who paid her boss?" The lieutenant looked up. Nobody paid her. There is no money. There is no contact. There is no angle. He closed the folder. I have been doing this for 16 years, and I am telling you that woman walked up that aisle for the reason she said she did. And Kang Woo-jin sat in his study for a long time after that, and found that he was frightened. Because in his world, a person who wanted nothing was the most dangerous thing there was. It meant there was no handle, nothing to hold, nothing to pull. He had never once, in 40 years, met a single person he could not pull. They married 11 days later, quietly. 4 witnesses. He needed it. That was the truth, and he did not insult her by hiding it. 6 families had watched him be left at an altar. And there was only one thing in that world worse than being humiliated. And it was being pitied. A wife made it a story about a strange woman. No wife made it a story about a weak man. There will be conditions, he said, and slid a paper across the desk. Dahlia did not look at it. Yes, she said, there will. And she took out a folded page of her own, in her own handwriting, and put it on top of his. Kang Woo-jin looked at it for a moment. Then he picked it up. 1, he read aloud. I keep my job. Yes. You are the wife of the man who runs 6 districts, and you intend to continue pouring wine at parties. I intend to continue paying my own rent, Dahlia said. The wine is how I do that. 2, he read. I take no money from you, not a one. That's right. That is not how this works. It's how this works. She met his eyes. You said everybody wants something. If I take your money, then I'm just another person who wanted something, and you'll never believe another word I say for the rest of your life. So, I'm not taking it. He set the page down. You are refusing my money, he said slowly. In order to protect my ability to trust you. Yes, that is an extremely irritating thing to do. I know, said Dahlia. He picked the page back up. 3. And here he stopped. He read it twice. When this is finished and you no longer need a wife, you let me go without a single question. The room was very quiet. You want me to promise that I will not stop you leaving, he said. I want you to promise you won't ask me why. Dahlia folded her hands. Because if you ask me why, I might tell you. And I've spent 11 years learning that nothing good has ever come of a woman like me being seen by a man like you. She moved into the east wing of a house with 30 staff in it. He did not touch her. He did not go near her. He was scrupulous about it in a way that would have been insulting from a different man. And from him, it was simply correct. But he watched her, and within a week, he began to notice something that he could not stop noticing. Good morning, Mrs. Bay. Good morning, ma'am. How's your knee? Better, ma'am. Thank you. You were limping on Tuesday. Use the service lift for a week. Nobody's going to say anything. She was already moving. Min-ho, your mother's operation was Thursday, wasn't it? How did it go? It went well, ma'am. Good. Tell her the flowers were from all of us. Woo-jin stood at the top of the stairs and watched his wife walk through a corridor full of people he had employed for 11 years and greet 6 of them by name and ask 2 of them about their families. He did not know the name of a single one. Not one in 11 years. He came into the kitchen at 11 at night and found her making tea. She did not jump. She never jumped. You want one? She said. Yes. She made him one. In a proper cup, because this was a house that did not own an ugly mug. They stood at the counter. Can I ask you something? He said. You can ask. How do you know their names? Dahlia looked at him over the rim of her cup. I ask them, she said. That is not an answer. It is the entire answer, Woo-jin. It is the whole thing. She set the cup down. Mrs. Bay has worked in this house for 9 years. You have walked past her every morning for 9 years. She knows your coffee, your shirt size, the way you like the study lamp. A pause. You cannot pick her out of a room. That is not. It's not cruelty, Dahlia said. I know it isn't. That's the part that gets me. She looked at him steadily. You're not unkind. You just don't look. You think I am a monster, he said. No, you should. I've met monsters. Dahlia's voice did not change. My father was one. He was very charming, and he could not walk past a person in pain without stopping to make it worse. That is a monster. She picked up her cup. You walk past. That's different. Is it better? No, she said. It's just different. Woo-jin put both hands flat on the counter. Ask me for something, he said. Anything. Ask me for a house. Ask me for a company. Ask me to destroy somebody who hurt you. I will do it tonight. Why? Because I do not know how to be in a room with a person who does not want anything from me. And he stopped, and he hurt himself, and the kitchen was extremely quiet. Dahlia set her cup in the sink. I know, she said gently. That's what I've been trying to tell you. She washed both cups. She did that without thinking. She had washed 2 cups in a kitchen once before, at 2 in the morning, and she did not mention it, and he did not remember. It went on like that for 2 months. He began coming home earlier. He told himself it was nothing. He learned that she read at night. He learned that she hummed when she thought she was alone, and stopped the instant she wasn't. He learned that she had a laugh she almost never let out, and that when she did, 3 members of his staff came to the doorway to see what had happened. He began asking about the staff. Badly, at first, like a man learning a language at 40. Mrs. Bay's knee, he said one evening. Dahlia looked up from her book. I asked her about it, he said. She looked at me like I had drawn a weapon. What did she say? That it was fine. He sat down. It is not fine. She is on that leg 14 hours a day on a marble floor. I have ordered a chair for the linen room, and I have told her to sit down in it, and I think she believes I am testing her. Dahlia put her book down. Give it a month, she said. She'll believe you, and then she'll tell you her son's not doing well, said Dahlia. And then you'll be in it. That's how it works. That's the whole thing. The security review was routine. His men pulled 12 months of interior footage every year and archived it, and the technician flagged a gap in the file structure and asked whether he wanted the old material or whether it could be deleted. Woo-jin said keep it. He said it without thinking, because he said it every year. And then, at 1 in the morning on a Tuesday, he could not sleep, and he went into the study, and he opened the folder marked with the date of his mother's funeral, because he had never once been able to make himself watch it. And tonight, for a reason he could not have explained, he did. He watched the guests arrive. He watched the guests leave. He watched himself shake 400 hands. He watched the house empty out at midnight and the caterers begin to break down the tables and the lights go off in the hall. And then at 2 in the morning, in the small kitchen camera, in grainy black and white with a timestamp running in the corner, he watched himself walk into the room and sit down on a plastic crate and put his face in his hands. He watched himself sit there alone for 11 minutes, and then the kitchen door opened. Kang Woo-jin sat forward in his chair, and he did not breathe, and he watched a young woman in a catering uniform come through the door with a crate of glasses. He watched her stop. He watched her stand there for 4 full seconds. He watched her put the crate down. He watched her fill a kettle. He watched her make 2 cups of tea. He watched her cross the room and set one of them on the floor beside his foot. He watched himself not look up. He watched her go back and sit down on an upturned crate 3 meters away and drink her own. The timestamp in the corner ran on. 2:11, 2:20, 2:34. She did not speak. He did not speak. Insane. She simply sat there in a kitchen with a broken man and drank her tea and did not once try to make him feel better because she had understood, somehow, that there was nothing anyone could say, and that the only thing left was to not let him be alone in it. At 2:51, he picked up the mug and drank it. At 2:58, she stood up. Kang Woo-jin watched her carry both mugs to the sink and wash them, and dry them, and put them away. And then he watched Dahlia Adesanya walk out of that kitchen without once looking back, and go home and never tell a living soul. 8 months. She had sat with him for 40 minutes on the worst night of his life, and she had never told him, and she had walked up an aisle in front of 300 people to keep him from being alone a second time. And when he had turned around and looked at her, he had not known her face. Kang Woo-jin put his head in his hands in exactly the way he had on that grainy tape. He found her in the kitchen at 2 in the morning. She was making tea. Of course she was. 8 months ago, he said. Dahlia's hand stopped. You sat with me, Woo-jin said, in a kitchen, on a crate, for 40 minutes. His voice was not working properly. You made me tea in an ugly mug, and you did not say one word, and you washed both cups before you left. She did not turn around. Why didn't you tell me? Because then I'd have wanted something, Dahlia said. Dahlia. If I'd told you, it would have become a transaction. She finally turned. Her face was very calm, and her eyes were not. I sat with you because you were alone. That's all it was. The second I tell you about it, it stops being that, and it becomes a thing I did for you that you owe me for. She swallowed, and I did not want to be owed. I wanted it to have been free. I didn't recognize you. No. I looked straight at you in that church, and I did not know your face. I know, she said. I was there. He went looking for Seo Ha-yoon. He did not have to look hard. That was the thing that told him. A woman who runs from a mafia wedding runs far. And Seo Ha-yoon was in Busan, in her aunt's apartment, with the door unlocked, waiting for him to come. She cried when she opened it. I'm sorry. Sit down. I'm so sorry I didn't. Ha-yoon. He sat down across from her. He did not raise his voice. He never had. I am not going to hurt you. I have never hurt a woman in my life, and I am not going to start with one who is frightened enough to leave her own door unlocked. She sat down. She was shaking. Who paid your family? Kang Woo-jin said. Ha-yoon put both hands over her mouth. Say it. They said. She was crying properly now. They said the marriage was going to end badly, that there was going to be a coup, that if I married you, I would be a widow inside a year, and my father's company would go with you. She wiped her face. They gave us 11 billion won to be gone by 11 o'clock. Not to leave you in front of everybody. Who? Seo Ha-yoon looked up. Your uncle, she said. Kang Sung-ho had been waiting 20 years. He had been passed over when his brother died. He had smiled at the funeral, and smiled at the succession, and smiled for 2 decades. And he had spent every one of those years building. And he had understood correctly that Kang Woo-jin could not be beaten in a room, or on a street, or in a war, but he could be made small. 6 families, 300 witnesses. A man left standing at an altar like a boy, in front of every person who had ever feared him. Do that, and the fear cracks, and when the fear cracks, the districts start asking questions, and the capos start taking meetings. And in 6 months there is a vote. It was elegant. It was patient. It very nearly worked. He had accounted for everything. He had not accounted for the catering staff. I need you to do something, Woo-jin said, and I need you to understand that you can say no. Say it. The 6 families are coming here on Thursday. My uncle will call the vote himself. He will do it kindly, in front of everybody, and he will win it, because I cannot prove any of this. He put his hands flat on the table. Ha-yoon will not testify. Her family will bury her if she does. I have money moving through 4 countries, and I cannot trace a single one of it back to him. So you have nothing. I have you. Dahlia went very still. 11 years, Woo-jin said. 11 years of standing at the back wall of every important room in this city. Every party, every funeral, every negotiation that ended with a dinner. He looked at her. Dahlia, you have been in the room for all of it. She sat down slowly. Nobody sees the person pouring the wine, he said. No, said Dahlia Adesanya. They don't. Do you remember? She looked at him for a long moment. I remember everything, she said. I always have. There has never once been anybody to tell. 6 families, 30 men, a long table. Kang Sung-ho stood up at the appointed hour and made the speech he had been writing for 20 years. It was a very good speech. It was about respect and grief, and how a man who has been publicly humiliated cannot command a room, and how sad it was, and how none of this was anybody's fault. He said the word nephew 11 times, and when he sat down, Kang Woo-jin stood up and said, I would like to introduce my wife. Nobody moved. Dahlia came in through the side door. She was not in a gown. She had refused the gown. She was in a plain dark dress, and she walked the length of that room, the way she had walked up the aisle, and she stopped at the head of the table beside her husband. Somebody at the far end made a noise of disbelief. This is a serious room, an old man said. Yes, said Kang Woo-jin. It is. Listen to her. Gentlemen, Dahlia said. Most of you know me. Silence. You don't think you do. But I have poured your wine for 11 years. She let that sit. Mr. Han, I served your daughter's engagement in March. You had the sea bass. Mr. Ryu, your 60th birthday at the Shilla. You asked me for more ice 3 times, and you never once looked up. The room had gone completely still. I was at the Yoon reception in April. She turned her head. Mr. Kang Sung-ho was there. He spent 40 minutes on the terrace with a man named Baek Do-hwan, who does not do business with this family, and who was not on the guest list. I know he was not on the guest list, because I printed the place cards. Sung-ho's smile did not move. I was at the memorial in June. Mr. Kang Sung-ho stepped out to take a call in the service corridor, and I was in that corridor, refilling a tray, and he did not stop talking, because I was staff. She looked directly at him. He said, by autumn he'll be a joke and we'll be voting. Somebody at the table swore. I was at the Seoul family dinner on the 4th of September, Dahlia said. 19 days before the wedding. Mr. Kang Sung-ho was seated at the head table with Seo Ha-yoon's father. I poured for both of them for 2.5 hours. He was there again on the 11th, she said, and on the 16th. At the 16th, they used the private room, and they asked for the staff to leave. And I did leave, and I came back 9 minutes later to collect the water jug, because somebody always forgets the water jug. She looked around that table. Mr. Seo said, and if he comes for us afterwards. Nobody breathed, and Mr. Kang Sung-ju said, he won't come for anybody. That's the whole point. A man who gets left at an altar doesn't come for anybody ever again. Kang Sung-ho stood up. This is a waitress. Yes, said Dahlia Adesanya, and she turned to face him fully for the first time. I am a waitress. I have been in every room you have ever felt safe in. Her voice did not rise, and it did not have to. You have said things in front of me for 11 years that you would not say in front of your own wife, and you have done it because you looked at me and you saw nothing. She put her hands flat on the table. Nobody looks at the person pouring the wine, sir. A pause. But the person pouring the wine looks at everybody. They checked her. Of course they did. 6 families do not fall on the word of a caterer, and Dahlia would have thought less of them if they had. It took 9 days. Every date she gave was correct. Every venue. Every guest list. She had named a man nobody in that room had heard of, and when they pulled his accounts, they found 11 billion won moving out of a Sung-ho shell towards the Seo family, timed to the week of the wedding. She had given them the thread. They pulled it themselves. Kang Sung-ho did not go into a river. He went to the 6 families, and they took everything he had and they left him alive, in a small apartment, in a city where every door he had ever been able to open was now closed. You could have killed him, Dahlia said afterwards. Yes, why didn't you? Woo-jin was quiet for a while. Because he spent 20 years believing he was invisible in my house, he said, and it turned out he was. And so were 30 other people, and one of them was you. He looked at his hands. I am not going to fix that by killing somebody. I am going to fix it by learning names. The date came 4 months later. She had written it into the contract herself, in her own handwriting, on a folded page. When this is finished, and you no longer need a wife, you let me go without a single question. It was finished. He no longer needed a wife. Dahlia packed one bag. She had arrived with one bag. She was rather proud of that. Kang Woo-jin was standing in the hall. You're not going to ask, she said. No, you promised. I know what I promised. He had his hands in his pockets. He looked like a man standing on the edge of something. I am not going to ask you why you are leaving, Dahlia. I gave you my word. Right. I am going to ask you something else. She stopped in the doorway. Can I take you to dinner? Dahlia turned around. We're married, Mr. Kang. Yes. We have been married for 4 months. Yes, said Kang Woo-jin. And I have never taken you to dinner. He took his hands out of his pockets. I have never asked you what food you like. I do not know your birthday. I do not know you have brothers. I do not know one single thing about you, and you have known every name in my house since the 2nd week. He stopped. He was not a man who had ever had to do this. You came into a kitchen at 2 in the morning, and you sat with me, and you asked me for nothing, he said. And I looked straight at you in a church 8 months later, and I did not know your face. That is the worst thing I have ever done, and I have done a great many things. Woo-jin, I am not asking you to stay married to me, he said it quickly, like a man getting out of the way of a car. I am asking whether I can begin at the beginning, properly, the way it should have been done. A breath. I want to know what you like to eat, Dahlia. I would like to start there. She stood in that doorway for a very long time. Then she put down her bag. She did not fall into his arms. That is not who she was, she said. I like fish, and I hate restaurants where the waiters are frightened of the customers, so we are not going anywhere you are known. That is most of Seoul. Then you'd better start looking, said Dahlia Adesanya. He looked. It took him 2 weeks. He found a place in Mongwon with 11 seats and a woman who had never heard of him and put the fish down in front of them and told him he was holding his chopsticks like a foreigner. He went back 4 times. It is 2 in the morning. Months later, in a large house in Seoul, the most feared man in the city is standing in his own kitchen in his shirt sleeves, and he is making tea, and he is making a mess of it. He carries 2 cups to the table. He sets one down in front of his wife, who is sitting there with her shoes off because she has done a 14-hour shift and has flatly refused to stop working. Then Kang Woo-jin pulls out a chair and he sits down opposite her. And this time, he is the one who stays. There is a lie that quiet people tell themselves, and it goes like this. If nobody sees me, nobody can hurt me. It is not true. Invisibility is not armor. It does not protect you from anything. It simply means that when the worst night of your life arrives, there is no one there. Dahlia Adesanya spent 11 years being furniture in rooms full of powerful men. She poured their wine and cleared their plates and stood against their back walls. And they said terrible things in front of her. Because a woman like that is not a person, she is part of the room. And then a man was left alone at an altar in front of 300 people, who had all come to watch, and every single one of them stayed in their seats. And the only one who moved was the woman nobody had ever looked at. Someone is watching you more closely than you think, not to catch you, not to use you. They are watching because they see you, and because one day, when the whole room turns its back, they may be the only person in it who stands up. So look at the person pouring the wine. You have absolutely no idea who they are. If this one found you tonight, you already know what to do. Like this and stays. Because the next one is already waiting. Another dangerous man. Another woman nobody bothered to look at. And another room full of people about to find out exactly what she remembers.